Bethesda has been keeping me busy this month with all the news they've been releasing. This week we got new insight on Starfield, and in Fallout 76, the public test server was opened back up with the next big update titled Nuka World on Tour. As promised, I am here with all the details on that update, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Starting with Fallout 76's PTS update, as stated in the previous episode, the PTS will be live one week and down the next, and so on. This will be the new model going forward for playtesting, and is a much better way to do it. The Nuka World on Tour will be a new permanent location in the ash heap with a variety of things to do. 3 new events in close proximity to each other, and 1 big area boss event as well. On the PTS, a new event will start every 20 minutes for testing purposes. In the live servers, I imagine they will be added to the general rotation. Now, the first event is called Most Wanted. In this event, we will play the part of an Old West robber, and it is our job to fleece the town citizens of their belongings and steal from the safes in the shops. We are to stash our ill-gotten gains in our getaway wagon. We will then have to fight the long robotic arm of the law and defeat the sheriff, which is a sentry bot. This event is a really nice change of pace, and I think you will have a great deal of fun with it. Just the fact that it is very different from any other event in the game makes it well worth playing. The next event is called Spin the Wheel. In this event, you will defend 3 separate Bottle and Cappy statues from waves of enemies. The unique part of this event is the randomness of the enemies. It's kind of like a daily ops type of event, but the wheel decides what you get in terms of enemies and circumstances. If you survive all 5 rounds, then you will win unique prizes. Finally, the last event is called Tunnel of Love. This one requires us to decorate the ride and make repairs. All of this is done in an abandoned mineshaft. At the end of it, you will get to attend a wedding. Through the entire event, you will be attacked by mole miners and mole rats. Now the big event, which is triggered by dropping a nuke on a mineshaft. This one is called Seismic Activity. This one is actually kinda cool because, like other boss fights, we have to drop a nuke. Fortunately for us, the boss spawns outside of the nuke zone. Once the event starts, the Ultrasight Titan will spawn, and it is our job to not only kill this new boss, but fend off the waves of enemies that will also join the fight. So just like other big boss fights, the boss will call in several waves of enemies for us to fend off. Now that we have a new boss, I can't wait to see what they do next. I hope Bethesda plans to give us a new area boss for each area. As it stands, after this update, we will have the Scorchbeast Queen in the Cranberry Bog, the Ultrasight Titan in the Ash Heap, and the Wendigo Colossus in the Savage Divide. This leaves the Mire, the Toxic Valley, and the Forest for new area bosses to potentially be added and at some point. Along with the events, we will also get several new mini-games to play in the Nukacade. Bandit Roundup, Nuka Zapper Race, Whack-A-Kami, and Bottle Blaster will be all the games we get with this update. Playing these will earn you Nukacade points, which can be redeemed for prizes. This update will also bring us the new free cam feature for camp building. When in build mode, the UI will have an option to dismount the camera from your character, which will make it easier for you to build your camp. So for you campers out there, happy building! This first update to the PTS will also bring some bug fixes. There are several of them, however, I am not going to cover those. A link to the update notes is in the description below. Now for the most controversial part of the update, that being the new Fallout First only item called the Ammo Box. This box acts just like the scrap box, but instead of junk, it stores ammo, with one limitation. That being the fact that you can't store fusion cores or plasma cores in it. Yet. So why is this so controversial? Well, because for some reason, people think that everyone should get access to it instead of it being locked behind a paywall. To that I say, while I tend to agree, it does make sense to only give this to first members. Here's why. First members are one of the biggest ways 76 makes money, so rewarding them with unique features is the best way to keep them paying money for the membership. I understand the other side of the coin, but at the end of the day, 76 needs paying players to survive. Not only does Nuka World on Tour bring us new events, but it also brings us a new story. There are people and bots to speak with, lore to find, and lots to explore. So, is Nuka World worth getting back into 76 for? Yes, it is probably one of the best updates yet. Now for the part I'm sure all of you have been waiting for, Starfield news. This time, Community Director Jess Finster spoke with Game Director Todd Howard about Starfield. It was a fairly short Q&A session, but it was also a revealing one. This new series is called Constellation Questions.
Hi, I'm Jess Finster, Community Director, and I'm here visiting Bethesda Game Studios where the team is hard at work on Starfield. I just want to say how grateful we all are for all of the feedback, support, and questions that you've been sharing with us on Reddit, Discord, Twitter. So we wanted to take a moment to answer some of those questions in our new series. So let's get started. First thing that we want to know is what inspired Starfield?
Oh, so many things. I think the main ones that, I'm going to go back like in time here. Sundog is a big one. Amazing game, kind of like the science fiction game when Ultimas were out. It also had this parcelless interface, kind of one of the first games where you're moving objects around and putting them together, but great game where you had your own ship and you could explore around that I loved. Another one, this is a kind of pen and paper role-playing game at the time where D&D was getting popular, is this game Traveller. Traveller was a little more hard science fiction. The other thing there, it's one of the first games I programmed on the Apple II at the time. I really wanted to make a Traveller game. It was also my first time realizing that computers had memory that you could run out of. I can already see the comments, people saying, you've been running computers out of memory for 40 years now, but that's an easy comment, everybody. You can do better. But those are the big ones, hearkening back to those old role-playing games that we loved, and hey, can we pull off something like this with today's computers and consoles, and etc.
Man, what great call-outs to make. Todd spoke about the inspiration for Starfield coming from the game Sundog and the tabletop RPG Traveller. Now, I'm going to show my age here, but I have played both of those games way back when they first came out. Those were the days. Sundog was a fantastic game that was way ahead of its time, and Traveller, boy, that was a fun RPG. Way better than D&D at the time in my view. If you know anything about either of those two games, you will see those games shine through in Starfield, and that is just based on what I've seen of the game so far.
You mentioned hard space or hard sci-fi, and I know that that's one of the things that's been hotly debated in the community. Is Starfield considered a hard sci-fi?
I never quite know, because that's always what do they think it is if you say yes or no. I think it is more hard to us, hard science fiction, where you can draw that line from, okay, here's how man explored space, and you can even look at our ships and say, all right, that has some visual identity back to that. But it's a trap question because it's a video game, right? Like a hard science fiction video game would be you die in space cold. And a good example, we were really into fuel and how the gravity drive works. And I'm reading papers on quantum physics and bending space in front of you. You don't actually warp. You bend the space, you bring the space towards you. And so we were playing that, and it became very punitive to the player. Your ship would run out of fuel, and the game would just stop. You just want to get back to what you're doing, so we've recently changed it where the fuel in your ship and the grav drive limits how far you could go at once, but it doesn't run out of fuel. Maybe there'll be an update or a mod that allows that, but that's what we're doing now.
That was an interesting take on the development of the game. The burning question on everyone's mind, is Starfield a hardcore sci-fi game? Todd's answer was spot on. This is a trap question because what is hardcore to one player is not to another. For Bethesda, they have to find that balance where most players will think it is and go from there. Of course, we are going to see those people who just want to hate for hate's sake, but they are in the minority. What I found particularly interesting is the fact that they recently made a change to the spaceflight system. In that, they made it so we never actually run out of fuel, but also made it just real enough in limiting how far we can go in one trip. So exploring is going to be difficult, but not impossible. I love this approach, even though I know it is going to make it much harder for me to play the way I would normally play a Bethesda game.
Constellation members are excited about the character customization and the traits in the game. Can you talk more about what players will experience with the traits?
I love our trait list. It's super fun. But each one obviously comes with some sort of negative as well. And we have a way in the game, kind of an activity or quest you can do to remove that trait, as opposed to, don't like my character, I want to start over. Each of them are something like that you can solve that removes the entire trait for the rest of your playthrough.
So this one was interesting because I was actually wondering if something like this was going to be introduced. Traits are a big part of the game, and if you choose something that you later regret, there is an out without having to start over. Personally speaking, I probably won't use this, but I know people will, so giving the option to remove a trait is a smart choice.
The last question, we have speech checks and dialogue that reflect your character build. Do you want to expand upon that at all?
Yeah, look, we've done a lot of different dialogue systems. We've gone back to kind of I'll call it like a classic Bethesda style dialogue with you're looking at the character and how they emote. You have a series of choices there. The scope of the game, the amount of content we're making is a bit more than we've done before in terms of quests and things like that. But the depth in some of this stuff with the dialogue, we just passed 250,000 lines. And so that's a lot of dialogue, but we've gone through it and the impact is really there. And that includes my favorite speech persuasion system.
You're not talking us out of this score.
It feels like it's part of the dialogue, but you're spending points to persuade them.
You willing to give up the ship? Just like that?
It feels natural, not like I've entered some other mode where I'm not doing regular dialogue. It's just I'm in this mode of persuading you to get what I want.
Having a way with words might prove useful.
That's it. That's all the questions that I had for today.
Yeah, this has been great. Everybody out there, keep it coming. We do really read it all. And also we look forward to showing you more of the game in the future as well.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. That's all we have for today. But don't forget, you can submit your questions at the hashtag below. See you later.
I love this last point. Not only do we have multiple dialogue choices, but now we have a new speech system where we can use points to pass a dialogue check. Also, there is now over 250,000 lines of dialogue in the game. That is absolutely massive. When Starfield was revealed, there were 200,000 lines of dialogue, and we just found out that it has increased by more than 50,000 lines. Who knows how many more lines will be added in by the time the game releases? I don't know about you, but this has me even more excited for the release of Starfield. Keep in mind, this is an all-new series from them, and we will be getting more of these short Q&A sessions. I would expect to see this start ramping up as we get closer to the actual release date for Starfield. I am still thinking it will be 3/3/23. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the Nuka World DLC? Are you looking to get back into 76 with this update? What are your thoughts on the news about Starfield? Are you even more excited for it? Sound off in the comments below. While you're at it, like, subscribe, and share. And as always, I'm just glad you stopped by, and I'll see you in the next one.